We have a very serious topic this week. I haven't made any puppets for this week's video. Our topic this week, out of all of my character flaws, this is not a character flaw that I am generally accused of. Our topic this week, machismo. I should probably define our term here at the beginning. Machismo, as I understand it, is the overstatement of masculinity, somebody who constantly feels the need to express to everybody at all times that they are masculine, and thereby, in my opinion, revealing their own insecurities on the matter. I should probably define as well that I am not talking about sexuality per se. In this video, I'm speaking about gender specifically in the context of this video. Some examples of machismo. I think that our minds have been trained to go a few places when this topic comes up. Maybe war, guns, fighting, the bullfight, drinking beer, country music, that sort of thing. I reject the placement of those things as the definition of machismo, because I believe that there are people who genuinely, out of the abundance of their heart, enjoy those things. Rather, machismo is born from an attitude, from a showiness. It is not the externals. It is born from the perception of our culture of what is masculine, which is silly because, as we know, those things shift over time. 150 years ago, you would dress your little boy in pink because pink was a manly color. And in fact, a few hundred years before that, you would call your little boy your little girl because girl was the word that they had for boy. And these things come from a binary view of gender, whereas I think that we have roundly proven by this point in history that gender is non-binary. It's rather a spectrum. I need to amend my initial statement in this video a little bit. Once I actually was accused of machismo, there was a play that I wrote and acted, a one-man show, and it was about three girls that I had dated in college, not at the same time, and it was simply me on stage telling the story of my relationship with those girls. And I remember after one of the shows, one of my colleagues said to me that that show was very macho in a way because it told the story from my point of view and expected the audience to have to take the point of view that I took of those relationships, which I think is true. And I bring this up at this point because it occurs to me that that's kind of what I do in these videos. I haven't really had the opportunity to analyze that yet. One of my personal experiences that I would like to bring up, specifically from the Kyriarchy, specific to the church in America, was a Christian church that I used to attend, where they would have a men's dinner periodically in which they would eat steak and they would have a speaker or they'd have a video. And in this case, it was a video of a pastor who was dressed in the manner of a lumberjack. I was given to assume he intended this completely unironically. And he talked about a scale that he had devised, which he called the Mr. Scale. And on one side, we'll assume it was the right side, of the Mr. Scale is Mr. T, and on the other side of the scale is Mr. Rogers, and every man has to figure out where they fall on that scale, and all of the men laughed derisively at the men who would fall on the unfavored side, which horrified me, because I should like to be more like Mr. Rogers, and in fact I think the world would be a better place if more people were like Mr. Rogers. There's a contingent in mainstream American Christianity that is so focused on gender, so focused on masculinity, and on the flip side of that coin, femininity. There are circles, believe it or not, that would actually use the term patriarchy in a positive way. And it's always baffled me a little bit that a man gets up in front of me and says, these are the things that are manly. You do these things that I list. You do these things in this manner, and you are manly, you are masculine, and these are unmasculine things that I have a list right here, and you don't do these things. And if you don't do these things, you will be masculine. And I'm supposed to say, yes, sir, absolutely, sir, I'll do exactly what you say to be manly. What could be more unmanly than that? And I should probably say that I don't think that true manliness, or indeed true womanliness, is the antithesis of the other. That the antithesis, I'm not saying that, and I don't think that the antithesis of masculinity is femininity. I think that one ought to try new things and discover oneself. I think that the antithesis to manliness rather is the misapplication of the gender in this binary sense, which results in timidity, in cowardice, and certainly fosters a sense of inadequacy if you should have anything that doesn't match up, that doesn't measure up to what other people expect of you. There's something reptilian and almost inhuman about looking at oneself in that way. I think that people need to figure out who they are, who they were created to be, and be that. Ta-ta.